Some people not gonna be happy with this video, I'm telling you, but hey, it is what it is. Hey y'all, it's Asha Bookishram and I'm back with another video. So as you can see from the title of this video, I am here to talk about AAVE, also known as African American Vernacular English. And you're probably thinking like, why? Well, because listen, Booktube loves using AAVE, and I'm getting the feeling that a lot of people in Booktube, from what I've seen in live shows, I'm not saying this is everybody, I don't work in absolutes, y'all know this, but from what I've been getting from like conversations in live shows and comments like after live shows is that people don't realize that certain phrases are a part of AAVE. And the reason why I want to bring this whole topic up is that I had been thinking on it for a while. I had made a comment on Twitter about wanting to do this video, and what pushed me to do this video was that SNL skit where they utilize AAVE and decided that they were going to label it as Gen Z language. It's not Gen Z language. That was complete erasing of an entire community of people, the way that we communicate with each other. It is part of our culture. It is a big part of so much that Black people have had to deal with, okay? So you're probably thinking like, okay, AAVE, what phrases? One of Booktube's favorite phrases is, we love to see it. It's the for me. Other phrases include lit, woke, finna, bae, spill the tea, drag, I'm finna drag you, slay, basic, hella, fleet, I feel you, turn up, sus, cap, extra, period, all of that falls under the umbrella of AAVE. And some of you are probably saying, well, that's a part of pop culture and people say those phrases all the time, like why am I not allowed to use certain terms? It's gonna happen. It is a part of language to where you adapt and things shift between different communities. However, you have to understand the history behind AAVE. And I feel like basically what we're seeing in pop culture is there are a lot of organizations and companies using AAVE to look hip, to look cool, to make money. It's a marketing tool now. But it's wrong because you still have a whole population that is not benefiting from that, a whole population that is still marginalized, a whole population that is still dealing with systemic racism. But it's easy to commodify an entire group of people, other them, make their way of life seem cool, and then still have them live under the same conditions as long as it makes you a profit. So that's why it's important to have this conversation, because these are not just words. These phrases are a way for Black people to connect with each other and a way for us to communicate. And this isn't just something that just started, okay? African American Vernacular English goes all the way back to the colonization of North America and slaves being brought here and having to find a new way to communicate with each other. I also think that a lot of times people not only leave out the historical aspect, but they forget that a lot of these words and terms actually came out of the queer community first, especially people of color. Things like spilling the tea definitely came from the drag community. And I think that people use these terms and don't know the history and think it's just something to look cool without realizing that there's a lot more that goes into this. And it's very awkward watching non-Black people use AAVE without knowing the history, without even considering the fact that it is by all means cultural appropriation to a certain degree, because Black people are not benefiting off of this. It's one of those things that really bothers me, because we as Black people have been told that AAVE is not correct English, which has led to a lot of Black people having to code switch. So for me personally, and I probably should have prefaced this by giving a kind of, like a warning or something by saying that I am one Black person. I do not claim to speak for the entire Black community. I can't speak for all Black booktubers. I'm speaking solely for me. If you've used AAVE before and you did not know you were doing it, I'm not here to tell you that you're a bad person. I'm not doing any of that, but I'm trying to tell you why it's so important to be mindful of when you're using another culture's terms and phrases and you feel like it's okay because popular culture is telling you that, oh, this is just how Gen Z speaks. Black people have been speaking this way for years, and we have been told that the way that we speak is not correct. It's not grammatically correct English. You shouldn't talk like this. It's ghetto. You're uneducated. You're less than if you talk like this. So to see white people now, particularly white people, because I'm going to be transparent, it is infuriating now to see white people use these terms, and it's like, oh, that's so cool, and I'm amazing for using these, or I feel like I'm cool because I use these phrases and I'm a part of pop culture, and this is just how everybody talks now, when an entire group of people still to this day, not just, oh, this happened 10 years ago, there are still people today, Black people today, who are being told for using these same exact phrases that their white counterparts are using are not educated. It's a lot more nuanced of a conversation when we start getting into the historical, the social aspects of using AAVE. This is not just internet slang. This is not just Twitter talk. This is not just TikTok talk. You are infringing on a cultural aspect of the Black community, and you don't know the history behind it. So every time I get on Booktube and I see someone say, oh, I love to see it, and I'm like, but we don't love to see it, because you're using a phrase and you probably don't know the historical significance behind it. Now I'm saying, am I saying that cross-cultural fusion, or whatever the correct terminology for it in terms of like linguistics, will these phrases not get absorbed into other communities through interaction? It's impossible. It's not something that's ever going to happen. And people always say, well, why are Black people trying to gatekeep AAVE? Because we have been humiliated for using it for so long. If we were accepted for using these terms the way that non-Black people are accepted for using these terms right now, we wouldn't have to code switch. And there's something that we talk about a lot in this community. I know that it's something that a lot of people have talked about in their videos, via live shows. Having to code switch is the most annoying thing. We have to verbally appease to our white counterparts. Because if we were walking around talking the way that we normally talk, which is AAVE, that's just a dialect that we talk in. If we go into, let's say, a professional job, it's considered unprofessional. We're uneducated. This is not the way that people talk. So to have to go through all of that and not being able to be your authentic self, and then to see other groups like so easily use the terms, and it's like, yeah, this is awesome. Like, this is how Gen Z talks. This is how, you know, the young kids talk now. And it's like, it's erasing so much. And the reason why Black people want to gatekeep it so much is because it makes us feel like we can't have anything. Nothing about our culture is appropriate for us to do until non-Black people do it. And it's so unfortunate, because then it ends up, people love what Black people create. People love what comes from the Black community. They love Black culture, but they don't like Black people. And that, as a Black person, is infuriating. It's very infuriating. So when I see, like I said, when I see other booktubers using phrases and terms that are very important to my culture, and they don't know the history behind it, and they don't care to know the history behind it, it's infuriating. It's upsetting. It's disrespectful, and it's not cute. I don't know why people seem to think that it's cute. Like, it's not cute at all. Like, because you don't know the experience that so many of us have had to go through because of our use of AAVE, the humiliation, sitting in a classroom and a teacher telling you you don't talk right, sitting in a classroom and saying, you know, you're not as smart as these other kids, you can't talk like these other kids, you're not talking right. And then now to see people use these same things and everyone thinks it's cool, it's marketable, people are making money off of it. Imagine being ridiculed and humiliated for the way that you talk, only for a company to talk the same way and then make money off of your culture, and they still don't like you. Imagine having all of this stuff for people to take, and you're still dealing with systemic racism. Imagine being a part of the Black queer community and coming up with all of these phrases coming up with this unique culture within the Black queer community, only for people to turn around and deny you respect. It makes no sense. My whole thing about it is that it's gonna happen. I think that people are going to use the phrases without even thinking about it so much sometimes, because it has become such a huge part all of a sudden of like social media and pop culture. But the thing about it is that I feel like people should be more actively aware and more respectful of the experience that Black people have had to go through, and wanting to talk the way that they naturally talk, and having to refrain from doing that to appease their white counterparts. And now having to watch their white counterparts use it so freely, and everybody thinks it's the coolest thing in the world. And it sucks. It really sucks. Because if you've had to code switch your whole life, like I'm code switching right now, low key. Except just then, that wasn't code switch. There are times when I'm sitting in front of this camera and I code switch. I'm go back and forth in between code switching, because it's so ingrained in me to code switch, because the way that I talk has been told, oh, that's not a professional. That's not attractive. You don't talk like that. And now that I have to be on social media and in the part of this community, and I see people use it like all the time, like the way that I talk. And then what's even more embarrassing is to watch people use it the wrong way. Don't use things just because they sound good, because we can tell when you there's a debate actually between whether it is a language or a dialect. Like some people feel like it's a dialect, some people feel like it's a language that has been kind of immersed within Creole. I haven't done enough research to kind of see where both sides kind of fall, but I know that there is a debate on like how to actually describe what AAVE is, whether it's a dialect or whether it's a language. But we grow up hearing it. We speak it in our households. We speak it amongst friends. We speak it amongst other community members. And it's a natural thing for most of the Black community. So when we hear people who are not Black and we can tell that this is not the way that you talk, it's awkward. Like that girl who was saying, apparently, like she was, when we say child and it's spelled CHILE, and she was saying Chile, like, it's not cool. It's not cool. You don't take someone's entire culture, appropriate it, and then you do it completely wrong. So I think that one thing that I know that Bree and I were kind of talking about in a live show or sprints that she had is that we wanted to have like a larger conversation about this, because I think that this is a perfect time for us to kind of interact with the community in real time and really talk about what it means for Booktube to be using AAVE, and how sometimes it is uncomfortable for some Black creators to watch their white counterparts using AAVE, or not even just white counterparts, watching non-Black people use AAVE is like, it's strange to me, I think, because of how we have had to grow up and how we've had to kind of like become two people to appease and make other people feel comfortable. And now we're watching people use phrases that we were told not to use. And it's very awkward. It's a very awkward phenomenon. Once again, I'm not saying that anybody's like a bad person. I'm not saying that anybody who's used AAVE unknowingly, like all of a sudden you're this horrible person. But I do think that there has to be some point in your life where you've got to like educate yourself. You've got to start questioning yourself. And I don't know how many Black people in the community have already said, like, stop using AAVE incorrectly. Stop using AAVE when you don't know the history. Stop using AAVE just because you think it's cool, because you think that's the way that you're supposed to talk. You know you don't talk like this. You know. And what's so amazing is that, like, I think that the phenomenon behind it is that non-Black people can use AAVE and turn it off and go back to doing their daily business, and nobody thinks twice about it, whereas Black people just don't have that luxury. So for me, it's one of those things where, like, I wish that people were just more considerate, because at this point I don't know how you don't know. because we've talked about it so much. I know I've talked about it on Twitter. I've talked about it on my YouTube channel. I've talked about it on Instagram. Like, I wish people would just stop. Now, I, in this video, of course, did not get into like the specifics, the historical specifics, because I think that at this point, it's not my job to educate people anymore. I'm so tired of educating people on stuff like this. Like, all it takes is like 5 seconds to open up a Google tab and just investigate, do your own investigation. And you know, if you want to see how cringeworthy it is when people participate in cultural appropriation and they feel like it's cool, I'm gonna leave that link to that SNL video, because that was disgusting. How that got greenlit, who was a part of that process, I don't know. And yes, there was a black person in the video, and I don't care. I hate when people do that too. Oh, well, there's a black person there. Just because one black person gives it a green light doesn't mean that it's okay with the rest of us at all. Like, not in the least part, because there's always one. And trust me, most black people who watched that video were disgusted by it. And granted, that video has nothing to do specifically with the Booktube community, but I would like you all to realize that it's not cute. It is erasing a history. It is erasing a culture. It is demeaning a whole entire group of people who naturally talk like this, who have been told they are not supposed to talk like this, and then people feel like it's okay. I'm gonna use it because it makes me look cool. Companies use it because they can make money, and meanwhile the black community is still here in the United States dealing with systemic racism. Makes absolutely no sense. Makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Like I said, Bree and I were talking about doing a live show, talking more about this in more detail, but I kind of just wanted to share my thoughts about this. I know some people are not going to be exactly like super happy about this. At this point, I just don't care, because I think it needed to be said. It has been said, but maybe if I sat down formally and said it, but then we talked about this in a live show too, the people who need to watch this video are not going to watch this video, or they're going to listen and they just don't care. But it just needs to be said. So we're probably going to do a live show, explore this a little bit more in detail, talk about it a little bit more in detail, so you know, people can get a better understanding. But you know, do some research, y'all, before you just start throwing phrases out there and using them because you think it's a part of pop culture. Listen to a lot of people who tell you like, man, like this AAVE, like stop doing it, stop doing it. We don't love to see it. But those are Booktube's favorites. We love to see it, and it's the, for me, it's the blank, fill in whatever the blank is for me. Just stop. Stop. All right, y'all, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content from me, click the subscribe button, hit the bell for notification. Looking for ways to support the channel, links are down in the description box below. Looking for ways to follow me on social media, the links are down in the description box below as well, and I'll be back with another video soon.